Life returns to normalcy in the locality of DABANGA in the far north region as defense and security forces protect the people and their property from Boko Haram insurgents. Farmers, graziers and business operators set sail in peace and tranquility. More than 9,000 lives are claimed by road accidents in Cameroon in the last couple of years. Government liaises with the private sector to check the escalating road traffic injury that halts lives and deters economic progress. The indomitable handball lionesses begin preparations for the upcoming African Women's Handball Championship on June 10 this year in Cameroon. 25 players are part of the first phase of the training. Good evening and thanks for joining us. You're welcome to the 7:30 News.
I urge you once again to put on your face masks, to wash your hands regularly, and to consult a physician or any other health personnel if you notice any symptoms. This is the only way to save lives and to curb the spread of the virus.
We begin our half-hour newscast from the Star Building. The acceleration of strategies to develop applied research in Cameroon as a prerequisite to growth has been highlighted at this month's cabinet meeting. During the session chaired by Prime Minister Joseph John Goutey, ways to boost vocational training and to enhance mass employment were reviewed. Christian Chair Atam reports that trends in the evaluation of COVID-19 were also examined.
The cabinet meeting for the month of March, presided by Prime Minister Joseph John Goutey, took the pulse of Cameroon's applied scientific research sector. The Minister of Scientific Research and Innovation, Madeleine Twente, said despite challenges, applied scientific research is making strides in the country with high-quality studies undertaken in different centers. Vocational training as a vector of self-employment and a solution to mass youth unemployment also came under focus during the cabinet meeting. The Minister of Employment and Vocational Training said a wide offer for vocational training exists in the country, in centers, but also through specialized programs.
Thousands of Cameroonians, most of them are jobless just because they don't have the skill which would qualify them to have the job. The Prime Minister, head of government, task us to handle this problem.
Latest trends on the evolution of the COVID-19 pandemic presented during the cabinet meeting indicate 5,120 active cases of COVID-19 in the country.
We have the decreasing of the number of positive cases, number of deaths is decreasing also, and the fewer and fewer person who is in respiratory distress.
Prime Minister Joseph John Goutey has called on different sector heads concerned to accelerate the implementation of measures to develop applied scientific research and boost vocational training in Cameroon.
The cabinet meeting comes on the heels of a mission to the Central African Republic, where Prime Minister Joseph John Goutey represented President Paul Biya at the inaugural of His Excellency Faustin Archange Touadéra. During his stay in Bangui, he was received by his counterpart Fiman Gribada and described the investiture as successful and symbolic. Christian Chair Atam once again presents a balance sheet of the expedition.
Prime Minister Joseph John Goutey's 24-hour outing to personally represent President Paul Biya at the swearing-in of the Central African President started with a grandiose reception at the Bangui Mpoko International Airport at 5 p.m. on Monday by the Prime Minister of the Central African Republic, Fiman Gribada. 3 hours later, Prime Minister Joseph John Goutey was received in audience by the Central African President, Faustin Archange Touadéra. He handed over a sealed envelope from President Paul Biya to his host.
The President of the Republic of Cameroon, President Paul Biya, dispatched me to Bangui, the Central African Republic, so that we should be represented, Cameroon should be represented at the ceremony. In addition, he gave me a sealed envelope, which I handed over to the President of the Republic, President Touadéra.
Tuesday morning at the National Assembly, Prime Minister Joseph John Gute was amongst world personalities gathered to watch President Faustin Archange Touadéra sworn in for a second mandate.
I think that the ceremony has been a huge success. If we are to judge by the popular enthusiasm which we saw in the city from all quarters, if we are also to judge from the level of participation, the numbers of foreign delegations and the quality of those delegations.
24 hours to demonstrate friendship and further strengthen the relations between Cameroon and the Central African Republic.
The Minister of the Armed Forces at the United Kingdom Ministry of Defence, James Happy, applauds Cameroon's engagement in the fight against Boko Haram and in providing security in the Lake Chad Basin. This was at an audience granted him today by Prime Minister Joseph John Gute, where he pledged the UK's commitment to work with Cameroon to tackle global security threats. Here's the Minister, James Happy, talking to CRTV.
I'm visiting Cameroon because we share with you a deep concern for the security situation in the Lake Chad Basin and the fight against Boko Haram and the Islamic State. And so I'm here principally this week to discuss how the United Kingdom and Cameroon can work together to address those challenges, as well as why the challenges. We want to work with our partners who believe in freedom to promote a set of values that we can all agree with, and we have a concern about how we ensure the safety of global trade routes. So, for example, in the Gulf of Guinea, we want to work with our friends in West Africa to tackle the maritime security threats there. The Prime Minister and this morning the Minister of State have been very supportive. They value the work that the British Armed Forces are doing with the Cameroonian Armed Forces. We're seeing real tactical results up in the Lake Chad Basin, where the Cameroonian Armed Forces are fighting with great bravery and determination against the insurgents.
On to one of our top stories, peace is gradually returning to the locality of DABANGA in the far north region, which had been crisis-ridden due to persistent attacks from the Boko Haram fighters. After last week's strike, defense and security forces have tightened security, and farmers in the cereal production basin can now go about their activities without fear. Ayok John Ashu reports that graziers and business persons are also operating freely.
The impact of bullets is still visible at the DABANGA Gendarmerie Brigade, one of the targets of the March the 27th armed attack by Boko Haram terrorists. Nearby are rubbles of a truckload of cotton fiber reduced to ashes, just like a cereal warehouse, motorcycles and houses. The community head of DABANGA and family members of the two deceased victims of the gruesome shooting gather around to mourn their loved ones in Muslim tradition. They are consoled by defense and security forces who assure that a security belt has been stretched around the zone as farmers and graziers go about their routine activities.
To call upon our vigilant committee to work alongside our soldiers and to give more information.
Meanwhile, it is business as usual along the Marwa-Kuseri highway via DABANGA with total guarantee for the safety of persons and goods.
I never knew I'm going to travel safely like this. So I've seen the security on the way. The government is taking care of the citizens.
DABANGA has turned out to be a Waterloo for the terrorist sect and another triumph for the defense and security forces combating insecurity in the Lake Chad Basin.
In our Newsroom dossier tonight, close to 10,000 lives have been lost to road accidents across the country in the last 8 years. This alarming record, presented by the Minister of Transport, Jean-Marc Gale-Bibehe, is an indication that road traffic injury is a collective bother which must be addressed. With over 24,000 accidents recorded in the same period, the human, economic and financial impacts cannot be undermined. Constantine Baum reports.
Road accidents are still a recurrent problem in Cameroon, with thousands of lives lost. according to a study carried out by Syscom on the impact of road traffic accidents by the National Gendarmerie for 2018 and 2019. It reveals that the number of deaths on road is falling. It reduced from 1,588 in 2011 to 1,091 in 2015 and 937 in 2019. The data as well indicated that 35% of road accidents are attributable to overspeeding, 17% to the condition of the vehicle, 10.5% to driving while intoxicated, another 10.5% to non-mastery of the wheel, 10% to road conditions, 7% to bad overtaking, and another 10% to other causes. The situation becomes worrisome following the 2019-2020 road accident situation as presented by the Minister of Public Health. According to the report of road accidents for the 10 regions, a total of 159,173 people were injured, with 892 deaths and a fatality rate of 0.6%. It was noticed that road accidents are numerous in the littoral, center, west, east, and north regions. The most deadly are recorded in the east, west, littoral, and southwest regions.
The state of road infrastructure in the country is partly blamed for the recurring road accidents, and the Ministry of Public Works is being held accountable, overseeing the technical specifications of roads before and after their construction, as well as making certain the rehabilitation of dilapidated stretches are all important. Clarissa Reitakan has the details.
The intervention of the Public Works Department in the road safety debate touches on rehabilitation, preventive works and preliminary actions before construction proper kicks off. Here, technical aspects come into play, the respect of which should be seen on the finished product, as only time and use will be the litmus test for efficacy.
There is henceforth a guide for the technical and methodological orientation for road construction since 2018. The Ministry of Public Works oversees safety norms in various aspects on all road projects. They include speed brakes in densely populated areas and security devices to fight against skidding around bends.
The breakdown of a number of road infrastructure in a couple of localities has put the rehabilitation concern on the table. As disclosed by sources from the Ministry of Public Works, activities are carried out in this regard. Emphasis has also been laid on actions which can prevent accidents while checking the state of heavy-duty trucks which ply the nation's highways, construction of weighing stations and rain gates, notably. As road safety remains a major concern, opinions hold that in many cases it involves making sure that the road meets all safety requirements in the first place.
Emergency medical attention provided to road accident victims was on the spotlight at the National Assembly as lawmakers queried the excessive and reckless killings on our highways. The Minister of Public Health, Manawuda Malashi, underscored that 8 new health centers to attend to emergencies will be constructed along the most deadly roads, while there will be training of first responders and provisions made for psychological support to victims. Beatrice Losamba tells us more.
The Ministry of Public Health reports currently upgrading the technical platforms of existing hospitals along major highways in the littoral, center, west, east and north regions which are accident-prone, the east, west, littoral and southwest regions being the biggest death traps. 8 more health concerns are to go operational along these routes in an effort to bring specialized medical care close to accident scenes. Meanwhile, the emergency unit, SAMU, will in the long run coordinate urgent operations as the ministry also works on drawing a map clearly directing users to structures that will attend to serious cases. Meanwhile, focus now is on training first responders to save lives on the spot that could be lost due to delays in medical attention. More ambulances and specialized equipment will be put at the service of such emergencies. Emphasis will not just be on clinical needs, but on sensitizing the population against sharing shocking images of dead bodies, a trauma to victims and road users. Roadside residents are even trained to be useful in delivering first aid to the injured. The Ministry of Public Health says call centers will be created in emergency centers, and the COVID-19 toll-free number of 1510 will migrate to attend to accident-related calls from victims who need information and psychological support. The acceleration of universal health coverage will further bring expected change in the way accident victims are handled in the country.
Away from our dossier on road accidents, a cleanup campaign to ease waste management in the Yaoundé 5 Council area is underway, with actors working with the hygiene and sanitation company Zakam. The maiden operation in the country, triggered by the council authorities, aims at clearing slums and swamps of refuse for a healthier environment. Iwane Pole has the details.
Managing domestic waste constitutes one of the main challenges in most of the municipalities in the country. As a way of making the city clean, the Yaoundé 5 Council has introduced a pre-collection pilot operation managed by the Hyper Clean South Service, in charge of taking waste from individual households to municipal bins.
Because of the state of our roads within the quarters, this company is going through the roads within the quarters, and they collect the waste, bring them to the places where Izakam can easily collect this waste. And the company is also helping us to sensitize people.
Hundreds of youths have been employed to collect domestic waste using 26 tricycles, working daily in slum neighborhoods of the Yaoundé 5 municipality that has a population of 4,500 inhabitants. The initiative has been lauded by city dwellers of the council area.
I don't carry again that. I appreciate it because they come and pick that in my house.
The operation is a welcome relief, as waste that would have been otherwise thrown into the streams is being collected directly, improving the environment and the population's health in these quarters.
In legislation, 5 bills have been tabled at the Senate in a plenary sitting chaired by the Vice Presidents for Tabetando. The bills, which relate to international agreements, will be examined by the Foreign Affairs Committee of the lawmaking institution. Charles Anyangwe reports.
The 5 bills under scrutiny at the Senate were first of all examined and found admissible at the Chairman's Conference before they were presented to the entire House chamber by the Vice President of the House for Tabetando. Shortly after the presentation of the bills that had already been adopted at the National Assembly, they were forwarded for scrutiny to the Foreign Affairs Committee led by Fondo Ganyonga III. The first bill on the agreement between Cameroon and Brazil on the transfer of persons sentenced to deprivation of liberty was defended by the Minister of State for Justice, Laurent Esso. The ratification, according to the Minister of State, will ensure the protection of the Cameroonian diaspora and pave the way for a genuine judicial cooperation between Cameroon and Brazil. The Foreign Affairs Committee of the Senate also examined the ratification of the Georgetown Agreement, the Marrakesh Treaty with disabled persons, the extradition agreement between Cameroon and Brazil, as well as the cooperation agreement between Cameroon and the United Arab Emirates on visa facilitation.
Divisional delegates of forestry and wildlife, service herds and other stakeholders are acquainting themselves with the second generation of the computerized system of the management of forestry information, CGIF2. The new program is expected to improve on their outputs. The Minister of Forestry and Wildlife, Jules Dorendongo, now expounds on the new system. Take a listen.
To operate it, we have put in place, we have created what we call checkpoint traçabilité MIFOF. They are charged to better fight against illegal forestry exploitation, to improve the control of logging. And we had to train them on the way to manage control posts, what we expect, what should be their objectives, and new directives in order to work very well on the field.
In the fight against the coronavirus pandemic in the country, 15 ambulances have been donated to the Ministry of Public Health. The benefactor is a United Nations Development Program with funding from the Islamic Bank of Cameroon. Alice Mbeina reports on the gesture.
These are the 15 ambulances equipped with water system, first aid kits, thermoflashes, oxygen boxes and other medical equipment. They have been handed over to the Public Health Boss by the United Nations Development Programme to assist the government in the fight against the COVID-19 in the country.
Today we have received 15 ambulances. Taking care of COVID-19 patients requires a good number of medicalized ambulances. From the beginning we had difficulties because of shortage of ambulances. We can now take care of a good number of patients.
The project is funded by the Islamic Bank of Cameroon as part of government's program for health.
The ambulances category C are fully equipped for intensive care. This is part of a package of 25 ambulances that has been now handed over to the Ministry of Health.
They have as projects to provide other health materials to Cameroon, amongst which are CT scanners, ventilators, as well as the COVID-19 vaccine.
Despite our efforts, COVID-19 plunged many families into mourning and seriously hampered the functioning of our economy and society.
The upswing in COVID-19 infections has led to a rise in hospitalizations in health centers across the country. The Central region and the Northwest region have recorded the highest number of patients being administered treatments for COVID-19 related complications. Baldwin Samari is at the Public Health Emergency Operations Center with the recent developments. Hello, Baldwin.
Good evening to you, Esther. KIMA. The wish of the government is to see a drop in the number of persons who are undergoing treatment in either the hospitals or treatment centers in Cameroon presently, given that so far we have 7,504 COVID-19 patients. These are persons with light symptoms or minor symptoms undergoing treatment in some of these treatment centers in the different regions of Cameroon. And those with moderate symptoms, we have 504 of them presently receiving treatment for COVID-19, and those who are presently on oxygen, those who are battling between life and death on oxygen in Cameroon, we have 120 of them. And the regions are highly hit as far as those with light symptoms. So we have the Central region with 2,321 of them, closely followed by the Northwest region of Cameroon with 1,562 of them. Quite difficult to accept, but it is the truth that we have many persons who are on oxygen trying to survive these days with the region with the highest number of persons on oxygen, which happens to be the littoral region of Cameroon with 40 patients on oxygen, closely followed by the Central region of Cameroon with 33 patients on oxygen, and the Northwest region of Cameroon with 20 patients on oxygen, those who are fighting between life and death. If we are at this particular situation at a certain level or at a certain point in time, some of these measures were not respected, and we have to continue respecting the different outlined barrier measures as far as COVID-19 is concerned. Back to you, Esther KIMA.
Baldwin, those figures indicate that it is a wake-up call. Many persons are battling to survive because of the coronavirus pandemic, so we should stay protected. We take you over to the Littoral region, where a new building, which will host the regional delegation of the Ministry of Public Service and Administrative Reform in Douala, has been inaugurated. The commissioning was done by Minister Joseph Lay, who seized the occasion to meet state employees in the region to profile the decentralization procedures advanced to his work. Roslyn Fossa has the details.
There are 25 offices, 9 secretariats, a meeting hall and other facilities that are incorporated in the new building constructed on a 66.93 meters square of land in the Yassa neighborhood. Before now, staff of the Delegation of Public Service and Administrative Reforms were using a floor at the Littoral Governor's offices. The new structure, which was inaugurated by Minister Joseph Lay, comes with a lot of facilities and falls in line with the ministry's project to dematerialize her services.
There are more than 21.5 thousand civil servants in this region. All of them will now come here for different services. It's good to receive them in an area like this.
Another good news that the minister came with for his collaborators in the littoral was the decentralization of several services which used to be available only in Yaoundé.
14 over 16 of those services have already been dematerialized. So they no more need to come until Yaoundé because they have all those services here. We also talked about discipline. Discipline is very important.
Of these facilities, including certification of career certificates, enrollment into administrative examinations, video conferences, and access to the call center are important for users, and the minister says must be taken care of.
In our sports top story, Cameroon's national women's handball team has begun training ahead of the African Women's Championship built for Cameroon on June this year. 25 players have been called to camp for the first phase of the training pending selection on the eve of the tournament. Baldwin Sama has the details.
For the first time, they will be taking part in an African Women's Handball Championship at home, and for this maiden participation at home, the Handball Lionesses will want to impress. 25 players have been in camp since March 19 this year, with the technical staff working on what will help the team excel during the competition.
The training has not been easy at all, but we are tougher than that, and we are giving the best of ourselves. The emphasis is mostly on fast playing, fast game. Twice they train daily with mostly home-based players while waiting for the arrival of the professionals, as their wish is to win the competition at home. Our objective is to win the cup. That's our objective first, to win. That's why we are trying to, that's why we start the preparation from now, so that by then we must have been ready and strong to beat anything that comes our way.
This Thursday, the Lionesses will know their group opponents after the official draw ceremony.
Life has returned to normalcy in the locality of DABANGA in the Far North region as defense and security forces protect the people and their property from Boko Haram insurgents. Farmers, graziers and business operators can now set sail in peace and tranquility, and more than 9,000 lives are being claimed by road accidents in Cameroon. In the last couple of years, government is liaising with the private sector to check the escalating road traffic injury that is halting lives and deterring economic progress. That will be all for this edition of the 7:30 News. Thanks for being with us. More news comes up at 8:30 p.m. with Adel Mbala. I'll be back tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. God willing, stay tuned to our programs. Good night.
I urge you once again to put on your face masks, to wash your hands regularly, and to consult a physician or any other health personnel if you notice any symptoms. This is the only way to save lives and to curb the spread of the virus.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.